Hey everyone, I'm Rob, a guy with a hobby and a love for music. This week I'm going to analyze one of the more interesting and unique songs that I absolutely love, and that's Never Meant by American Football. I really love the way that the guitar melodies kind of overlap each other, and it creates this beautiful sounding sad song, I guess. So, American Football is an old Midwest emo band. This is prior to like Fall Out Boy and My Chemical Romance and stuff like that. So it doesn't sound anything like that, but this is kind of the precursor to that type of music. The thing that really makes this song stick out is its tuning. So the tuning is FACGCE, and I'm going to analyze this song first with its tab, and then I'm going to go through and I'm going to try to see if I can transcribe it to standard tuning. Okay, so if you don't know much about guitar standard tuning, I'll quickly go over that and kind of compare and contrast the difference between standard tuning and the tuning that this song uses. So let's go ahead and look at my screen. So here I have standard tuning on the top with E, A, D, G, B, and E. And then the song's tuning is F, A, C, G, C, and E. So what are the differences between these two tunings? They raise this E to an F, they lower this D to a C, and then they raise this B to a C. So when they do this, they're throwing off literally all of the standard scales that you would normally learn and use on standard tuning or even drop tunings, and they're kind of creating their own tuning pretty much. So why would they do this? This seems really weird, right? I think it's really used to emphasize the four the four chords for the song. So F major, C major, G major, and A minor are the four chords used in the song. And with having these open C and F notes here, what it basically allows them to do is it allows them to play this open string here, then they can do some cool stuff on G and E. Meanwhile, they're still maintaining C and F while it's open. So, and also A because they use A, but that's still a part of like normal tuning. The song itself is in A minor, I believe, and it's kind of hard to tell without or know for sure without an explicit like actual score that gives the key signature itself. I'm kind of going off of a tab and kind of guessing by ear, but there's no accidentals in the song, which means that no note is ever flattened or raised or sharpened. So it only uses like the standard notes of C major or A minor, and I'm gonna guess it's in minor because the song it gives kind of a sad vibe. That's just kind of my opinion. So I think it's in A minor. So I'll explain kind of how, or I'll not even explain, I'll show kind of how the difference between these two tunings makes a significant change in the way that you can approach actually playing chords, or at least the chords that they want to play. When I actually go through and try to transcribe the song from this tuning to standard. But for now, these are the tunings, these are the differences, and let's get into the song and actually take a look at the song itself and the chords that they're playing. Okay, so I've already analyzed the song prior to recording just to kind of save some time. It would take way too long to kind of sit here and analyze everything in real time. So instead, I have everything kind of written out for the entire song, and we can kind of talk about it and go through it. So first things to notice is I have this set to A minor, because I believe that's what the key of the song is. It sounds kind of sad, and you'll hear it as we listen to it, but I have the scale of A minor laid out, and then just the underlying chord beneath it. So A minor, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, and G major. Another thing that I'll quickly go over before I dive into everything is the way that I notate these chords. For the most part, I'm just gonna keep everything simple and just say this is an F chord, and this is an F chord, and this is a G chord, and so on and so forth. So if I have anything analyzed here that looks a little different, you can just kind of just look at the bass note if none of this makes sense, and just say, hey, this is an F major chord here. So, kind of explaining what this is though, this is indicating that this is a F major chord that has a G in it from the next octave. So this is F, A, C, and then it has this additional G, but it's the G that would be part of the next octave, if that makes any sense at all. If it doesn't, that's totally fine. It's just an F major chord at the end of the day. The next thing is this F6-5. So quickly explaining this, an F7 chord would be F, A, C, E. So basically you're adding the seventh. The 6-5 is indicating that it is just a F7 chord, so F, A, C, E, but A is in the bass. So you can actually see that here. This note here is A in the bass line itself, and that is reflected here. So if that also doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. It's just F major. That's what I'm gonna call it. And this is kind of how I'm gonna go through all the rest of the chords. So just to kind of get a general chord progression for the entire song. I'm not gonna sit here and step through every single nuance of each chord, and I actually don't have all of it marked down as I went through it, just because I realized that it would get kind of complicated for anyone that doesn't know like music theory or anything like that. So instead, I'm just going to stick to the basics and say this is F, and this is G. So that kind of goes through and explains the intro. Actually, it's literally just F, G, and that repeats until the chorus. So we can kind of listen to that now, at least just the first 4 bars. And it sounds something like this. So yeah, it's literally just these two chords going back and forth for the entirety of the intro and the verse until it gets to the chorus, and then it changes just slightly. So yeah, so it's kind of weird that it only sticks between really 2 chords the entire way through this, because normally you'd have a bit more chord movement throughout the intro and the verse, and then going all the way up to the chorus. But I think the thing that really lets them do this is the way that they overlap the parts of the guitars. So as you heard, and as you can see here, these open notes that this tuning allows them to use really lets them create a really cool sounding, open and beautiful song. So when they have both guitars playing, it just sounds really cool. Even though it's at a chord level, it's actually very basic. Okay, so now let's take a look at the chorus, now that we've gone over the intro and the verse. The chorus is legitimately simpler than both the intro and the verse by just being a single chord, and it's just F. And I think the reason for this is because they're pushing into F and G here in the interlude. But if we take a look at this, you can see it's just F chords all the way through. And let's listen to this. So what's going on here? Essentially, all that's changing is, instead of bouncing back between F and G, it's staying in F, and then the lead guitar is actually playing the same thing that it was during the intro and the verse. So it just it sounds like it's building towards something, and I think it's building toward this interlude. All right, and then with the interlude, again, this is kind of still, it's gonna sound like it's building more, but instead of just an F, it's bouncing back between F and G again. So F, G, F, G, and it does this all the way until the verse. So we can quickly listen to this. You can kind of hear how it still feels like it's kind of building towards something. Okay, so you can hear in this that the lead guitar is also changed. So once it hits the interlude, the lead guitar is changing, and then the chord progression is kind of bouncing back and forth between this F and G again. And then when it gets to the verse, it really kind of takes off, which I am about to show you now. So if we listen to the verse real quick. So again, it's almost releasing the build up here slightly, and it sounds really cool. And this is kind of where the main part of the song is. So it bounces between, well, not bouncing anymore, but it goes from F to C, stays in C, and then it finally hits A. And you'll notice that A is the kind of what I'm calling the home of the entire song. So since it's in A minor. So as it goes F, C, C, A, and then it bounces C, A, F, C, A, it's really like resolving. It's always resolving on this A here. And it sounds really cool after going from this interlude and this chorus to finally having this part here where it feels like something is finally happening and it's resolving to A. So it goes through this and it plays this, and then it's back to another chorus. But this time the chorus looks more kind of normal, I would say, where you have a few different chords going on here. So you have a 3, 6, and back to 1, and then it just repeats until the outro, which is just the beginning again. So let's quickly listen to the chorus. Okay, I didn't realize that I didn't have the bass line here as well, so let me just go down here. This, so that way we can see the verse and the chorus here. So, as you could tell by, or at least for me, I could tell that this resolution on this A really feels like home. So, for the chorus, it goes from C, F, and then back to this A. It feels really nice, and it feels like there's finally resolution to basically everything else that has been happening in the song. And this just repeats, so it's just this 3, 6, 1 chord progression, and it repeats until it gets back to the outro, which is essentially just the intro, because it's the same thing. And we can kind of quickly just listen to that, just to double check. Alright, so it sounds very familiar, and then that's essentially how the song ends. It just keeps playing that, it ends, and that's it. So very beautiful sounding, it sounds great, but quickly I just want to go over the chord progression overall. So it starts with the 6 and 7 here, it kind of bounces back and forth, it's building and building. By 6 and 7, this is the F major and G major, but it kind of builds through the intro and the verse, and then it gets to this big chorus. It just sits here on F, and again, I believe it's building more. So it sits on the 6, and then it finally gets to the interlude, It's like, hey, we're gonna bounce back between F and G again. It's familiar, but it's different because the lead here is changing. So it keeps building, and then finally you get to this verse here, which is this F C A C A F C A C A thing that's going on with C. But essentially, it's releasing a lot of tension, and it's finally hitting this home chord here with the A minor. So then that would be 6-3-1, 3-1, 6-3, 1-3-1, 3-6, and it kind of goes through. And I think this is kind of like the main kind of part of the song in my mind, as well as this next part, which is the second chorus, which it's really hammering home this resolution on A with 3-6-1, where it just keeps repeating this, saying, hey, we're finally at the end, we're wrapping it up, this is how we're wrapping it up with A here, and it feels all nice and good. And then we're gonna start over again with what we played at the intro with F and G, super familiar, and we're just gonna kind of keep going and let it end that way. So that's kind of the overview of the song and the chord structure itself. Now I'm going to try to see if I can transcribe the song to standard tuning. Okay, so I have my guitar here. It's tuned in standard, which is E, A, D, G, B, E. But never meant is F, A, C, G, C, E. So what that means is that this E being raised to F, A is the same, this C, or this D is being lowered to C, and then we have G, and then this B is actually being raised to C, so this is the same, and then E. So that's the tuning of Never Meant. Now I'm going to step into the intro for the lead and try to basically transcribe it. Okay, so before I play anything, I just want to quickly show what the lead guitar is doing. And you'll see that there's a lot of open notes. So that kind of creates this really cool effect where they can just let these notes ring as they're playing all these other notes. And when I transcribe it, you'll see the difference and kind of hear why they would tune their guitars the way that they do. So let's cut over to the actual transcribes intro here for the lead guitar. So as you can tell, it doesn't sound very open because I basically have to play the open C here, and the other open C is right here. So instead of having those notes ring, I have to play and then jump to the next string. So it just doesn't, it sounds okay, but the original song really lets the C notes ring, and it sounds way better that way. So that's why they use the tuning that they do. So this is where we're really going to see why they did the tuning the way that they did, and how this is kind of almost impossible to play in standard tuning. So this is the rhythm section for the intro. And you can see here, these are going to be our problem children here, is going from an open F to this G, and then having these G try to play these open notes. I'll try to play it, and I will show you how difficult it is to play it, but just kind of pay attention to the way that my hand has to look in order to try to play this properly. So, the first thing is, instead of having this F here being open, I actually have to put my finger here like this to play that F, which is a problem. And then instead of having the open C here, I have to put my finger like this. So already I'm pretty constricted here. And then I have to hit the, let's see, E, F, G. So this is G on this low E string. So the first chord of the rhythm goes something like this. Oops. And then it would jump to this G. I'm gonna play the open C on this string here. And it would sound like this. And then it gets a little easier because it's using an open A, which I already have here. And then jumps back to G. And then it goes back to this weird and just jumping between these chords would be very, very difficult. So yeah, that's kind of transcribing it to standard, and it would be basically impossible to play this live or any faster. I mean, you could play it faster than I did, but it would be really weird and awkward. Okay, so for the rest of the song, I'm not going to worry about transcribing the rhythm because the rhythm is kind of messy transcribing it to E standard, and it doesn't really make much sense. So, however, for the lead, I will try my best to transcribe it to E standard because at least the verse is pretty easy, and it actually isn't that difficult to play in E standard. So first, the lead part starts from the intro and goes all the way to the verse with this. But then, when the verse kicks off, it sounds like this. So that's the verse. Now let's look at the chorus. And actually, just like the verse, the chorus for the lead is pretty easy to play. And essentially all you're doing is you're just playing one note higher than what the tab would be or what the actual note would be, since it's just raising this B to C. So the verse, or the chorus, sounds like this. Oops. And then from there, the chorus leads back into the outro, which is the same thing as the intro, and that sounds like this. And then it just repeats that until the song is done. So that is essentially the entire lead part of the song transcribed into E standard. So from the struggle of trying to transcribe the rhythm, you can really tell that it's basically impossible to play the entire song in standard tuning. Even if you do transcribe it, so like for instance the lead in the intro, it doesn't sound as good because you don't have the open F and C notes that really ring and kind of make it feel open. Instead, it's kind of like a rushed type of tapping type of thing, and it just doesn't sound as good. So that's why the different tuning is honestly awesome, and it sounds great. It's something that not many artists would ever do, and it's pretty creative, honestly. Even compared to changing like standard tuning to drop tunings, the way that the drop tuning works is nothing like the way that this tuning would work, because at least in a drop tuning, you still have some normalcy with scales and stuff on 5 of the strings, instead of you're just basically changing the low string and throwing it out of whack, but the top 5 strings, you can still play scales normally as if it was in standard tuning. But with this tuning, it completely throws everything off, and you wouldn't use this to play like normal music. So the way that they use this was super creative, and it's just honestly super cool. So that's the analysis of Never Meant by American Football and my attempt to transcribe it. If you guys like the content, go ahead and, leave me a comment below and like and subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys next week.